Hey there, it's a skate doc, and time for an electrical analysis. You're going to need a T15 Torx bit to take off the deck, and there's tons of fasteners. I'd recommend an impact driver or an electric drill to do this. And once you pull it away, you're going to notice it's, wow, actually made out of carbon fiber. That's pretty impressive. I've seen a lot of companies actually try to cheap out on this. It's not the best layup, but it looks pretty stout, and it's pretty good. Structurally, it's pretty stiff. You can see the gasket in there. Then you've got the forward power bus interface, aft power bus interface, and the charge port, as well as the forward ESC bay, aft ESC bay, and battery pack. Then you can see the forward ESC battery connector, which is pigtailed in with the battery bus. And it's this unknown connector. It's like an XT90-ish, but I'm not really sure what type it is. Then we've got the aft bus connector, which is a standard XT90. I'm wondering if this is to keep people from getting confused when plugging in the AuxPack adapter plate. Not really sure. It might be a cheapo thing on Exway's side. So again, here's the aft bus connector. It's an XT90 type connector. You can see it written right on there. Standard, bog standard. And then we move on to the aft section. So we have the power bus interface, the aft ESC battery connector, and the ESC, which is just basically a potted hobby wing that Exway looks like they've customized quite a bit. Then you can see the aft ESC battery connector, the charge port connector, which is an XT30, and then the antenna, which is underneath a little shield. And you can see everything from a different angle. See that antenna there with that shield lifted up, and that's basically to keep the deck from rubbing on the cables. Now this is the forward bus. This connects into the same power supply that the ESC is receiving, and that's that strange cable fastener that I was talking about, that connector. It's like an XT90 caliber, but it's rounded instead of triangular. If anyone knows what it is, please leave it in the comments and I'll put in a little blurb. So let's take a look at the voltage. Alright, so on the forward we're getting 44.9 volts, hovering around 0.8, and then on the aft with that XT90 connector we're getting 44.9. So this is telling me that the forward and aft are sharing a common power rail with the battery, and that would make sense because it would be strange to have two different battery packs within one battery supplying forward and aft separately. And of course the connectors have nice little rubber booties on them to keep them from getting messed up or any water ingress, which is nice. Also, you don't want to short it out. And another rubber booty. So let's take a look at what happens when you plug in the charger. Alright, so battery only is 44.9 volts. Charger's plugging in, you can see it turned red right there, and we bump up to 45.2. Now I ran this board down to about 75% just so I would have a little bit of charging room in here. So you can see there's a little bit of a jump in voltage, obviously, from plugging the charger in. Now let's take a look at the aft bus. It's 45.3 when charging, and on battery only it's 45.0. So if we compare the forward and the aft, we can see they're basically the same exact voltage, and that makes sense based on our prior measurements showing that it's sharing the same bus effectively. This is good news. So what about the charger port? Alright, so the charger port coming from the battery, the battery's backfilling that charger port with 45 volts. That's why a lot of people are having issues with their charger glowing when they plug it in and it's not plugged into the mains. Now if you look at the forward bus, we're at 45 volts, and I don't think I checked the aft bus in this one, but that's fine. It's 45 volts as well. Checking the charge port again, 45 volts. There we go. Alright. So then we're going to take a look at what the charger is actually dumping into the battery pack. and it's roughly 50.6 to 50.8 volts, and that's coming in through the XT30 connector, which you can see the probes on. Alright, so in summary, so without tearing apart the battery, it looks like there's a common power rail that feeds the forward and aft AuxPack interface, as well as the charge port and the forward and aft ESCs. Now this is good. That means that all the power is basically coming through the battery management system that's with the cells inside the battery pack itself. So this could be good for trying to create our own or do a DIY AuxPack, as long as we match the voltages appropriately. So obviously we'd want to have a higher voltage on the AuxPack that we're doing, up to 50.7 volts, to match the charger voltage in order to backfill the board. We wouldn't want to have a lower voltage AuxPack, because then it would suck power out of the board to charge that AuxPack. So I'll be interested to see when people do some teardowns on the AuxPack or do some testing on it, what the voltage is on that. I would actually imagine that it might be a little bit higher than the board is, just so you don't end up with that backfilling situation where it vampire drains the board of all its power. But I don't know. We'll have to see in a future episode. Regardless, ride safely.